So my name is Miranda. I am 40 years old. I am based in South London, in the London Borough of Croydon. And my hobbies, I like to knit. A lot of my friends and family are having children. I'm of that age now, so in order to relax and in order to sort of show my appreciation of them, I knit little stuff for the babies. So what happened was I was initially diagnosed with primary breast cancer in August 2014. I had chemotherapy, a lumpectomy, radiotherapy, and I was declared in remission in November 2015. I was in remission for about 3.5 years. And then I had this niggling cough around the winter of 2018. I just thought it was a normal seasonal thing. Even though I had my flu jab, the cough hadn't gone away. So I was recommended to go and see a doctor. I saw my local doctor, the GP and general practitioner. He said it sounded like I had a chest infection. So he gave me a course of amoxicillin. It's a form of penicillin. I did that for a week. I still didn't feel any better. I felt worse. So I called the 111 telephone number, and they recommended that they would send an ambulance. Because of my history of cancer, primary cancer, when I was admitted into hospital, they had to do loads of tests. They said that they needed to check things out. They found cancer cells when they did the test and got the results. And then through that, they did more scans and found that the initial breast cancer that I had, even though I had a chest MRI because of my dense breasts and my age, I had that at Christmas 2018. They found that it had no longer in the breast, but it had spread to the bones, the liver, the pleuris, which is the lining of your lungs, and further tests show that I had it in the bones as well. So initially I had chemotherapy. I had docetaxel, and I had Herceptin with that as well, because my type of breast cancer, as well as being as well as being ER positive, so estrogen positive, I'm also got the protein of HER2, which means that it encourages the cancer cells to grow. So using Herceptin, that's a targeted form of immunotherapy to help with the condition. That was fine, but then they found progression. So I was put on a different type of chemotherapy. And then just before lockdown in the UK, the first lockdown, I had quite debilitating headaches. So I had some tests, and they found that the cancer had spread to the brain, which is not unusual for someone who is HER2 positive. It's a 50% chance of you getting it. So it wasn't a shock when I received that news. So what they recommended was, because of the progression, I had to move from docetaxel to Perjeta, which is the form of chemotherapy. I was no longer needing immunotherapy because it wasn't working, and I had full head radiotherapy. When I talked about whether, because I heard of CyberKnife and I didn't think it would work. And when I spoke to my oncology team, they said, because you're having full head radiotherapy, that should be sufficient. I said, okay, that's fine. And then later on, near the end of the year, they said that there was progression in the brain again. So even though I talked about CyberKnife, they had to talk to a neuro-oncologist and had to talk to a craniologist to see whether I would be eligible and what would be the best course of action. So after all these meetings, they said, okay, you are a perfect candidate for CyberKnife. So I had that because of the brain tumours. One, in total I have 4. One was a big one, and then I had 3 little ones, and they were in the cerebellum, which is sort of at the back of the head, and it's the type of area where it affects your balance. So beforehand I was falling all over the place, and I didn't understand why, and this was the reason why. Because of where it is as well, having the CyberKnife was better, because obviously with any type of surgery there's always risk. With the CyberKnife, there was quite a large reduction of risk because of the size of the tumours and where they were. It was okay for me to have them all dealt with, because normally if you have more than a certain amount, then they might have gone to another avenue. But because of the size and because I only had 4 tumours, they decided CyberKnife was fine. So I had 3 sessions in total. Initially it was scary because I had to wear a mask, and you have to keep still because obviously you're dealing with lasers, and you want it to be accurate. So if you're moving around, it's not going to be as accurate as you think it's going to be. So initially that was scary. So once I had my first session, it was like, okay, I know what to expect, and it's been fine. The final session was quite intense, and they said if things hadn't worked out, then I would have 2 more sessions. But then when they did their first testing after I had the 3 sessions, they saw there was quite a reduction in the tumours, to the point where the large one shrank and the 3 little ones were sort of ineligible. And ever since then, with CyberKnife, I've just been stable, not had any headaches, any sort of issues along those lines, because obviously they have to give you the worst case scenario in terms of, worst case scenario is death. Best of the worst is maybe a bit of dizziness, a bit of what they call chemo brain, where your cognitive issues might arise. You might forget things. You have short-term memory loss, that sort of thing, a type of sort of post-traumatic stress disorder. But I've been quite lucky where I've had sort of minimal side effects, if any, and it's been absolutely perfect. Best thing that's, well, obviously not the best thing having cancer, but being able, first of all, to be eligible for CyberKnife was great. Like, it was literally a lifesaver. And just being able to just share my story has been really, really fantastic. Well, I'm part of some breast cancer groups, and I explained the situation that I was having, and CyberKnife became, a sort of, topic to talk about. And it was quite positive. A lot of people said, it's been successful. They had no side effects. It was really great. If you're willing, just go for it and check it out. So that was really encouraging, because obviously you do have these worries, but when other people who are in a similar situation you're able to talk to and relay your fears, it makes things a lot easier. And my mum, who I live with, she comes from a medical background, albeit sort of mental health. So when it came to sort of medical terminologies, she was able to understand, and I was able to talk to her about things as well. And, you know, as a mother, you know, you want your child to grow and live a long life anyway. So the fact that this was available for me, she was really happy about, because, you know, with the United Kingdom, we've got devolution, so healthcare is in four nations. So you've got England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland. So there's a bit of a lottery there. As well as that, because I'm based in London, I might have better care than someone who was in the southwest of England or the northeast of England, that sort of thing. So that's all got to be considered as well, and, you know, and cost, because some NHS trusts don't do it because it might be a bit expensive for them to have, and they've got to weigh their budgets and stuff like that. So, but fortunately, because I'm with the Royal Marsden in London, obviously they've got to go through the process of applying for it, but it was just a formality. So they just applied for it, knew they'd get a yes, they got the yes, and then could carry on, and I could have the treatment. I think in particular, when it came to breast cancer, I was first diagnosed when I was 32, and then I had secondaries when I was 37. So first of all, I want people to know that it affects anyone regardless of your age, because a lot of people still associate having breast cancer as like, oh, my gran had it, my great aunt had it, as like an elderly sort of disease, which it is. But when people say, oh, you're so young, and it's like, well, yeah, but, you know, it doesn't discriminate. And as well as that, when you do get literature, it has a lot of lack of ethnic minorities, and obviously there's an issue in regards to whether ethnic minorities are eligible for this, if it would suit them. So being able to share my story, being Black, and as well as that, with me being part of the LGBTQI community, it shows that, you know, that my story might resonate with someone, and they might come forward or ask their doctors or their oncology team questions, see if they are eligible, and being able to just know that, you know, representation matters. So, you know, you can't be what you can't see. No, I think I've talked, because I talked about obviously different ethnicities, different sexualities, because obviously there's a issue in the UK at the moment in regards to sort of trans rights and stuff like that as well. So having that, as you know, to bear in mind, because obviously women get breast cancer, but, you know, men also get breast cancer. And then if you're trans, sometimes it might get missed because you're trans, and thinking about that. And as well as, you know, if you've got disabilities as well, because obviously being, you know, having cancer is a disability in itself. But if you're like deaf, or like you've got learning difficulties, like dyslexia or dyspraxia, that sort of thing, put that in mind when you are with the literature you've got with the CyberKnife, or when you're talking to people as well. That might be really helpful. I feel okay today, actually. I had to see my oncologist yesterday. Was able to go out today, and then I'm having treatment tomorrow. It's peaks and troughs, to be honest, but in this moment in time, I'm doing okay. It's a new year, new start. Keep going on and staying as alive as long as possible, which is what anyone wants, really.